Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about. Don't talk about. 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 Talk about. Don't talk about what you see behind closed doors. Don't talk about business that you know that ain't yours. Better not talk about what happened in '04, but you can talk about what you hear from Canaanland Moors. Bet you won't talk about when you were on all fours. The times you wanted to experiment, explore. Most don't talk about the childhood they endured. It's psychological, need I say more? But all you do is talk shit. Yeah, I know that you're bored. Talk all you want about me. I've been learning to ignore. Don't talk about facts if you know you ain't sure. Let's talk about the reasons why we can't stop wars. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about. Talk about. Don't talk about. Talk about. Don't talk about. Talk about. Talk about. Invasion. Watch for democracies, hypocrisy, philosophies, fear and shock factories, pseudo-fraud mockeries and poppy fields, blocking swinging shots without Moroccan shields. Industry, the mind for a person spoken stopping wheels, popping fields empty, buried in the battlefields. Working on the streets is walking in some cattle fields. King Alfred cruising, love a mental snoozing, sleepwalking and talking, cell phones are soothing. Minds disappearing, genetic memory erasing. Don't even have a job, but they get you for tax evasion. Hot like a frying pan, crying fam, lion men. News gadgets, firemen, no loyalty to fire.
This is from Google Earth. I just pulled this approximately 6 weeks ago or so. Google Earth.
Oh, brother, don't let me interrupt you, but let's take a pause for the cause right now. So you're going around this place where you know you've lived for all these years, right? And you're bumping into this information, right? In a place where, you know, they say you're not from, you know, you have to go back to Africa, and you know they might even have people over there that are you know, I don't want to use the term race because I know they probably don't deal with it over there, but you probably get abused being how you look, you know, just like we do everywhere in the world. You know what I mean? But how does this solidify in your mind your connection to Moors opposed to Black and whatever else that we've been taught that we are?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that because a friend of mine is a teacher, and she teaches high school, and she teaches the highest level of high school, which is called gymnasium. And when I started coming on this information, she was like, yeah, that's what we learn in school, that Black people are Moors. Like, they're Moors. That's what we learn. So I'm like, really? Like, you never told me that before, but then I never asked. So then I started, you know, the more I started learning, I started talking to another friend of mine, Florian, and he's a gym teacher. And, you know, I was telling him I was taking some online courses, and he was asking me what about, and I said the Moors, and he's like, yeah, we know Black people as Moors, like Black people as Moors, we learn as Moors. But then, and he told, this is his exact words. He said, but then you guys started calling yourselves Black and Negro and so on. And so we just said, okay, that's what you call yourself, so obviously we're gonna call you that. That's what he told me.
So, and this is a European?
This is a European.
This is a European telling you this?
Yeah.
So-called slave master telling you that you chose to call yourself those names, and they're not, the jurisdiction was created and we jumped in it willingly.
Yeah.
So that means we put ourselves in, we took ourselves out of prisoner of war status and put ourselves in slavery status.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, what he was telling me is like, we follow the U.S. is such, the America, I should say, is so powerful in the images that it spreads to the rest of the world, that he was basically saying, like, we just follow you guys in the United States in the United States of America. We just follow you. So if you say you're pink, okay, you're pink. That was pretty much it. He said, you guys started calling yourselves black and Negro. And so that's what we follow suit, because you know yourselves better. But he learned, you know, us as Moors. That's what they learned. That's what he learned in school. And he's 30 years old and he's a gym teacher now. So, you know, and then there's another, let me get to this image actually, that leads me into this next image.
No, go ahead, brother. Show us yours.
A friend of mine, another Florian. There's a lot of flows in Germany. He's 26, I believe, and we play basketball together and stuff. And I was telling him what I'm learning and stuff like that. And he told me, he came to me and he said, well, he thought that Moor was a derogatory statement because when he went to the Volksfest, which is kind of like a traveling amusement park that comes around twice a year to Nuremberg, called Volksfest. He said that at certain booths, they sell ice cream at certain booths, it's chocolate ice cream, and they call it Ice Moor, which means ice is ice cream and more. They call it Ice Moor. And he said something like, some people petitioned, I think it was the Europeans or something, but I'm not 100% sure. But some people petitioned thinking that that was a derogatory mark and they wanted to take that out because it was tied to ice cream and stuff like that. So he thought it was removed. Now, this blew me away because I went to the Volksfest. It came back. It comes twice a year. And I went to the one in fall. And I went around with another friend of mine, Robbie, that I also play basketball with. And they still had the stand there. And I took a picture of it. Now, if you see at the top here, it says Ice Moor. And you see in the corner right there, that's the logo. And I blew it up. And this is it. Ice Moor. For €1.50 or €2. And this is still there. I just took this in, I think September it was when I went.
To reality, I was searching for a better way, and then I found you a lane. He gave me nationality and brought me back to reality.
Story about a monster, creature, the Negro. The Negro is the most deceptive creature on the planet. While his words move in a rhythm meant to hypnotize, he makes himself up to appear to be one thing today and another tomorrow, bringing innocent yet unaware believers to his side, to be fleeced by his minions and cohorts, while he yet lingers with the people, secretly sucking on their energies and living off of their virtues. He positions himself to cause them to believe that he suffers as they do. He feels the pain which they bear, all the while growing fat from their energies, enshrined by their attention. He stores up so much of their world power, he is able to produce monsters out of it, reflections, illusions which resemble himself, appearing to be caring and comforting. These doppelgangers, these abominations, he uses as diversions for his escape. Yet his destination is never far, for without the will of the many people propel him, he is more or less a flightless creature, a creature of almost no substance and no will other than to survive. A cosmic nomad of nefarious origins, he has stumbled upon this planet, exiled from all other sentient civilized systems he once haunted, a being not so much living as lived, existing mainly within the lower baser regions of the mind, partial to no particular environment, complexion, or political system. He is a bounty hunter, a mercenary who subcontracts his work to willing yet unaware volunteers who forfeit their true profits to him. To the victor go the spoils, but to the Negro goes a more lively and valuable treasure. Like a leech, he grows off of the lifeblood of the living, infecting others and leading them to an existence of the same, an existence that projects scarcity where there is abundance, fear where there is love, and darkness that can only pretend covers light. Honors to the prophet Noble Drew Ali, for leading us out of the darkness and into the marvelous light, and for reminding us that we are not Negro, Black, or colored, but Moors, much more, much more, much more. I was searching for a better way, and then I found you, LA.
Goosebumps. Holy shit. Goosebumps. Goosebumps. It's crazy. You didn't get goosebumps from that? You're probably in the lower base regions. You didn't get the goosebumps from that. You are not living. You lived. Searching for a better way. And then we found the prophet. Searching. Searching. You know what searching we did? There's a lot more. He's gonna do it. And we'll just hold on for that. You've been searching for more. Islam to searching for more. Make sure you go to the YouTube, subscribe and all that. And check out the archives. Peace more. Islam. So yeah, I was just talking about we've been searching for a better way, then we found Noble Drew Ali. And how much searching we did to find the prophet. So I was gonna talk, but I will let you, you know what I mean? I'm gonna let you drop the mic first. And and just a little breakdown of how much searching you did to find Noble Drew Ali.
Alright. Moors. Jeremy B. calling from Northwest of Nixon. And man, it's crazy though, because I guess I've been searching all my life because I don't know, I just never I guess conform to a lot of the stuff that was out. So I had a lot of knowledge of what, like like some history, but I hadn't even made the connection. And I used to always read. I used to always like listen to what they call conscious rap and all of that. And in all honesty, the first time I ever came across the prophet was in 2008 when the Nas album. And he's on the song. He's like, the problem is, I started thinking like the colonists. Like that was the first song where I ran across the man, but at the time I was unconscious. So even when that song was playing, like I didn't know, I didn't pronounce his name correctly. I was calling him, Mobile Drew Ali, and it's funny because when Nas said that, I was like in my head, I was like, man, whoever that dude is, he sounded important. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget that because I was at a stage where, I guess at the time where if I couldn't pronounce or knew who you were, I just figured you had some kind of.
Hold on. Sorry. Pardon the interjection. Islam to Brother Supreme Mel. But pardon the interjection 1 sec more. I don't mean to interrupt you. But let me just back up your story a little bit. Let me just set this up properly. Let me just set this up properly. All right. Okay. You can tell your story now.
All right.
Just back up the story a little bit to when the first time you heard it.
The first time I actually heard the Prophet appellation was I was listening to the Nas, the Nigga album, and I swear to this day, like I know that song word for word, like I really know the whole thing. But not to get too far off is that I used to always listen to like a lot of what they call conscious rap and stuff, and like Common, Talib, Mos Def, a bunch of all the conscious people, you know what I'm saying?
You're seeing big.
Islam, the brother Yashin Bey. And you don't call him that. I ain't trying to catch him that I ain't trying to catch him that, man. And oh man, but the first time was the Nas song, man. And he was like, probably never started thinking like the colonists, but I was calling him Mobile Drew Ali. Like I didn't know what he was actually saying, and shoot, when I heard it, I was like, man, whoever that is, because I know Nas do a lot of studying. So at the time, I'm up here, I'm like, man, I know Nas not going to just tell us anything. So whoever that man is, for him to mention that, he must be important. And shoot, that was in 2007, going on 2008. Yeah, because I had just graduated high school. Yeah, so 2007, 2008, when I actually heard the Prophet appellation, but it wasn't until 2012.
Hold on, let me just get this call right here. Hold on 1 second, bro. Islam, carry on, Mark.
Yeah, so it wasn't really, even I came back 12, because when I saw Hidden Colors, they hadn't, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even believe they mentioned the Prophet in there, but it was later. So I could say around, so from 2007, 2008 up to 2013, I'm going to just say, 2013 was when, I had matched the song with the man, and I don't know, man. It's just like I said, that's about 5 or 6 years apart. Even because all my life, I always was questioning. I was like, I always had the answers. I mean, the questions that a lot of people weren't able to answer. And at this point, they was calling me like Antichrist, because I just wasn't conforming to, just anything. They're trying to call me like Illuminati, all this kind of crazy stuff, but at the point I wasn't conforming to the things that was already put out there for Asiatics to grasp onto. And later down the line, I ended up coming back full circle to the man that, everybody seemed to leave out. So I was, in all honesty, I was doing a lot of searching. I didn't know what it was. I used to always say, I don't know what to call it. It doesn't have a name. I don't know what to call it. They were like, what are you? I don't know. It don't have a name, though. I know that for sure. It don't have a name. And it came full circle. So, and in all honesty, even prior, I wasn't really reading anything to even crack the surface towards where I'm at now. I was reading like to me back then, Behold the Pale Horse was like the top. Like, I was like, have you ever read this? Eid was being in the lab. So I was looking at, Bill Cooper as, full studious, when now, knowing what I know now, even he didn't mention, the involvement, the Moors, this being our government, all of that stuff. So the stuff that I used to be on wasn't even cracking the surface. And shoot, it wasn't until, like I said, I ran into Abdullah on Sinetta Couch, and from there ran into Taj. Then that's when I hadn't heard of you at the time, but I still was studying. And then I used to always see Canaanland Morse. And then one day I just tapped into that. So it's like with real search or research, that's when I came into them. But when I was just, content in the stuff that I was being fed or what I was reading, yeah, I wasn't, I could tell you, like, even if I was to stay like that, I probably wouldn't have never even came across the prophet. So, like, I know what that song means for real because, like I said, all my life, not even, like me and my sister, we used to always have the saying that being a genius is inalienate. Basically, that at the time we were like outcasts just from our train of thought, how we thought and how we saw, the world. So I was already like kind of on my own as far as like what I believed and what I thought, how things go. And I mean, like I said, the universe listen, man, because I came full circle. So that's me personally.
Yeah, Islam, and we just want to also put it on the record for all the whoever's and whatever's out there that want to disrespect the art of hip hop and say that it shouldn't be more, shouldn't do that or whatever. Like Moors are trying to do this for something other than what Moors are trying to do anything else for, uplift and found humanity. Just so you could have it in perspective how important hip hop is. It's hip hop why you even got that testimonial. We wouldn't be talking about this if that song didn't play.
Yeah. Because that's the only way I was able to. I was like, oh, because you have your song. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, I heard the sample, but there's a lot of people who don't even know where that sample even came from, And even when you go back and you listen to that whole album, it sounds like he was at the same point.
Yep, he was there. He was at the line, just stepping over it.
Yeah. So shoot, like people could talk all that stuff, but I could honestly see, like, first time even hearing the Proverbs Appellation was on I forgot what it's called. I think the name of the song is Y'all My Niggas or something like that. Yeah. So
Islam, man.
Yeah, man, and then it's crazy, like that's my testimony,
Islam. And then again, searching Wisdom of the Womb, willofallah.com. Triple album. Searching is one song on the triple album. willofallah.com. And just support what's real. You already know what's up. The more we have to prove. You know what I mean? So we're gonna put it on the floor again for the other caller. How much searching did you do to find Noble Drew Ali?
Islam, how much what?
Searching.
How much searching did I have to do to find the prophet?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Don't worry, we got time.
Well, all my life, basically. Well, because I was listening to Brother Jeremy. Islam, Brother Jeremy.
Islam, bro.
I was listening to the brother, and just like from a young point of view too, just growing up, like you always get a whiff, not the prophet's title himself. You don't ever get Noble Drew Ali. That didn't come till years later. But looking back at it now, I was always around it because, like, growing up, my father is God's Cipher Divine. He was in the Nations of Gods and Earth. So me growing up, I was already knowing that it's something, but it wasn't. I couldn't get too much in it because you got to remember, all right, in my household, my mom is Christian. My dad is on Nations and Gods and Earth at the time. So, but they're playing the split thing, you know what I mean? Like, I got to go to church because that's my mom. I got to go with my mom. But my dad, you know, my dad was studying. So I would see him and, you know, I would ask him questions, you know, what is he reading and stuff like that. And I would get like little things, nothing that would make me think of Noble Jew Ali, but, you know, because it was Islam and he would be reading the Quran. But my father could read Arabic. You know, he could read Arabic, talk Arabic, and I'm young. You know, I'm young at the time. But growing up, but my grandmother would always tell me, you know, like when she would hear me talk about my father or something, she would just say, "Oh, that's that jail stuff," and I'd be like, "Oh," you know, growing up, like she'd shun it. But I knew it was something because he never had to pull me to it. Oh, I just went to him and asked him questions and stuff like that. So, but even growing up too, I was always in school, you know, just growing up in school, I did papers on our people. You know what I mean? Like not just no quote unquote Black History Month, like our whole household was about our people. You know, like even my sister, my older sister, the one who put me on to the information, when she was in junior high, she actually dressed up as Louis Farrakhan and did a speech. Like, that's how, you know, I knew we was there, but we wasn't all the way there to the prophet yet. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, we getting a little bit older, you know, I'm starting to get away from, because I'm grown, you know, getting away from the knowledge, not really studying. But like I said, when I was little, my foundation was our people. I did lots and tons of research about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and stuff like that, El Hajj, and I would do tons of papers about that, go to the library. My mom, we was always like that growing up. It's a lot of things people didn't know. You know what I mean? Because I'm doing all of this, but I'm in the projects. You know what I mean? Like, it was weird. You know what I mean? Because we're in the projects and we're still going to the library, you know, still doing those types of things. But when we got older, you know, we start breaking off. We got more Christian side, and my father left that part alone, got into what he was doing. So now I'm off on my own. But so years go past, and I'm not doing none of the studying no more, none of the information. And now it's just, you know, regular knucklehead time. But a couple of years back, like 5, 6, a couple of years back, my sister, who the one I told you, when she was in middle school, she 38 now, but she was in middle school, she was the one that told me I was a Moor. She had came up to visit the fam, and she had pulled me upstairs and told me, you know, like, because she wanted to write a book about her children, for her children to read. But when she was doing information, she didn't want to start her history off with slavery. So when she started looking elsewhere for our people who weren't enslaved and had a true history of our people so she can write it for her children, she ran to the Moors. And then she told me about that. So then I came home, and that whole situation was crazy because I came home, I studied, and I ran into, of course, Taj. You know, the first video is Taj, driver's license fraud. Everybody knows that, the driver's license fraud, and him mentioning Noble Jew Ali, but it still didn't click. Like who Noble Jew Ali was, because I never heard of his name. You know, I just see some guy up there with this hat on, you know, and he's talking about licenses and fraud, but if you listen to the video, he doesn't mention the prophet a bunch of times where it could just stick to my head. So it wasn't nothing like sticking to me until I ran into the Grand Sheik, Cujo Aduel, And when I ran into the Green Sheep, I remember it was a video where, oh yeah, because you know how on YouTube it'll give you basically what do you
recommend,
like stuff that
recommended stuff.
Recommended, right. Because
Yeah.
I've been watching Taj videos and I seen the Grand Sheik in the corner, and I clicked on the videos, and you know I'm scrolling through stuff, so I'm just, as soon as it came on, I went to a time, like press a time limit. I don't know, it's like 8 minutes, 9 minutes into the thing. As soon as it played, it said, "You want to be dumb, nigger?" And I was like, "Oh, this is where I need to be at right here." Okay, this where I'm gonna be at right here. This the one right here. You want to be dumb, nigger? And he went in like, not studying, you out there doing stuff too fast, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is what I need to hear right here." And then, and then the RV Bay publications, and then getting that website. Once you got that, the university, that's the lifesaver, and then you get that's when you really get to know Wujud Ali everything from there. Like that's where I got everything from the Wujud Ali was from there. And that's how basically. But the thing was, it was easy for me to go into the information. That's why I tell the story about my father, because I knew already, it just came, it just set with me well. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, this is what it is. This is something because even my uncle, my father's brother, he was the one, when he came home from being kidnapped for years, he knew who Wujud Ali was. But I never heard about who Wujud Ali was. Like, he knew exactly who he was, being in the Nation of Islam. He knew exactly who Wujud Ali was. But they never would talk about it. Like, all of this stuff started coming on, like, you had to study on your own. It just started, I just started getting it. I know there's more that's been added for years, but I just got a whiff of it because of my sister in the last, 6-7 years, something like that.
That's wild.
So that's how it took a while to get to the prophet, but once you get to him, I was building with the Grand Sheik earlier. Man, that man that's wow. Powerful brother. Powerful. What is it? A bumbara. A bumbara. A bumbara.
Powerful people. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that all the Moors who are active have the same story. It's the same thing, not hearing about him from anybody. And doing your own research. And this man comes up with this hat. Who is this? This was probably 2005, 6. Who's this man? Who's this man I never heard about? And I talk about it. Pisses me off for years. That bothered me for years. That was something, can't let go of that. All these people had to know who this man was. No way all these people don't know who he is. No way. Nobody bumped into him and checked and said, hey, let me talk about this guy a little bit more than, as far as the, conscious community or whatever. omitted him from the records. Like omitted him.
If I can add on,
there's a lot more.
That was another thing that helped me in my decision was how is it that I heard about everybody else? Like, bro, I've been heard about Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall,
Right.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, I done heard we need more than 28 days in Black history. But even if that was a short month, they still didn't make it a thing to squeeze him in. You know what I mean?
Right. Squeezed everybody else in.
Man, bruh, these people will tell you about, they'll tell you about some Africans over in what they call Africa right now during Black history.
Yeah.
Before they, you know, even mention what Drew Ali did. And then if you look at what they're doing is that if the case was to acknowledge somebody for doing something great or a great achievement, how could this man? It's like when you watch those awards and they be like, how come he didn't get nominated?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like y'all talking about great achievements and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You're talking about great achievements and you know, like never heard of this dude. Never.
Yeah.
Like what was that?
Yeah.
Like never even flashed his face.
Mm-hmm.
That had to be an agenda because the civil rights guys would promote every leader, dude. They put everybody in the forefront, marching and everything. Everybody was in the paper. He heard about everybody from Martin, Jesse, Al, everybody for that civil rights stuff. But nobody, nothing, not a whiff about Noble Drew Ali. Not a nothing.
Mom's the word. Mom's the word for real right there.
Mom's definitely the word.
Even when I look at, you know, what was going on to so-called Black people around 1913, I'm like, when was this? Where was the prophet? Like, the prophet was around. Don't try to act like the prophet wasn't around. Like this, he was around. They try to act like he wasn't even there.
Yep.
Like he wasn't. Like the Moorish Science Sybil didn't even exist.
And that has to be a focal point too for new people who are getting into this information. Think about how many people you know about, that you heard about, that they told you about, that you did research and found out about. And why wasn't this man's name mentioned? And if it was mentioned, it's not in the proper perspective. That would even allow you to consider what he had to present to his people. And then, like Moore said in the chat, on top of you not finding out about it, everybody who you know ripped him off. They took something of what he was teaching in order for them to push their whatever that they're pushing right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Ripped him off.
That's what. I didn't mean to cut you off, Cujo, but it's crazy though, because even when, you know, we see, you know, our religion is Islam, these people would credit that to Elijah.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Call him the honorable and everything.
Mm-hmm.
and just call the prophet, oh, Noble Drew Ali?
Okay,
Yeah,
hear this one. Okay, so hear this one. This is a more, if anybody has stuff in the chat, I'm trying to keep my eye on it. So if you got questions, just throw them up. Islam to Brother Woods. The question for the Moors, and we're going to ask the Moors on the line. Why the Nation of Islam never talked about Noble Drew Ali? I was born and raised in the west side of Chicago. The presence of the Muslim is strong. That's just a question to the panel.
Why?
Yeah, why the Nation of Islam never talked about Noble Drew Ali? Because I guess from the perspective that he was even raised in Chicago, and he doesn't know.
Well, I give you that's just real quick. Well, if they was to talk about Noble Drew Ali, then the Nation of Islam would actually have to start talking about nationhood.
Mm-hmm.
So the Nation of Islam can't tell you about the man who told you, "Come all ye Asiatics and hear the truth about your birth, on nationality." So if you go back to the man who said that, then there won't be no more Nation of Islam. Then you'll start looking at them like, hold on. Islam is not a nation. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. And to add on, like, okay, the Nation of Islam started when? 1930. Okay. He asked that question. It's about to be 2019 in 2 months. Right? If they answer that question, they gotta explain for almost 100 years that they just committed fraud. They gotta explain that. They gotta explain that. That's why they don't want to talk about it. Because you guys started in 1930. Noble Drew Ali died in 1928. Well, how are y'all doing? How you start off with 30,000 members? There's a lot of, see, that's why, because they gotta start answering all those questions. Okay, why didn't y'all just continue on with the days and L's and Ali's? And why did you do the X? They gotta answer those questions. That's why they don't want to talk about it, because they gotta start answering those questions. Somebody gotta live up to that. Who did that? You gotta explain that these people have sold out your birthright. They gotta explain that since 1930. They gotta explain all that. It's not just, why they not talking about it? Oh, they got a lot of explaining to do. It's not just something you just talk about for 5 minutes real quick. No, they gotta explain why they didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? It's like, and then you start seeing, people took checks. You know what I mean? They took the check to sell out since 1930.
Islam.
Oh, I ain't.
Are you still there? I'm not hearing them.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I won't cut your wisdom more. I just want to pick camera back off of you.
No, go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just to tap on to what you were just saying, Yusuf, is that in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, on page 506, it's dealing with the Paul and the Saul, right? So it says, and let me just read this real quick. In early history of Paul, we behold 2 states of mind. First, the Pharisaical state of mind, which may be found in one who is intellectual, educated, and may inherit his religious bias or get it by association. Second, the spiritual state of mind, which is found in one who attains real spiritual understanding through illumination by the Christ mind. All experience both of these states. When one has been associated with and has zealously defended the doctrines of some sect, and afterward changes one's mind and preaches differently, one is persecuted by those who are still loyal to the old faith. So that's why the Nation of Islam will never, ever speak about noble duality.
Okay, so the more saying, okay, so it's okay, that's deep, because you're saying that the first 30,000 members of the Nation of Islam was something like the last Moors that were tricked into selling their birthright.
Right. Absolutely. And then I'm glad you asked that question too, because if you look at it now, we got to question those Moors too. Like, y'all knew. You know, y'all knew what it was. That it wasn't. Well, this ain't what Noble Drew Ali set up. 30,000 of y'all. 30,000.
And then Woods. Keep in mind, from 1930 to at least 1933, they were still wearing fezzes and all that.
Say that again?
They were still wearing fezzes
right.
in the Nation of Islam in 1930. They were wearing fezzes. Right? That's how deep it is. And that's why, as Moors, people have a problem with Moors, especially people who are conscious people. Perfect example. You ever ask yourself why they replaced the honorable good brother Asir the Duke of Tears with B.O.B.? You never ask yourself the question? How come people always block the Moors? How come B.O.B.'s a lecturer all of a sudden? You don't think people are playing you right now? You're gonna talk BS. They're gonna talk BS about Farrakhan, who used to be a calypso singer or whatever, right? They're gonna talk BS about Malachi York, who used to be an R&B singer or whatever. But the new guy on the conscious circuit or whatever, and then now they took out the Moor. How come they took out the Moor? Why would they take the Moor out?
That's that M word y'all was talking about.
Why would they take the Moor out? And it's still a campaign right now to get the people away from their birthright. That's the game. Keep the people Negro, black, colored, confused, whatever, it doesn't matter, as once they're not Moors. Because edict went out. Remember, anybody who's talking against the Moors, this was their edict from their Queen Elizabeth. Right?
You're right.
And then don't let people try to, after now come and say, oh yeah, bring them on and let's do whatever and all that stuff. Because remember we told you that they're playing with you. Yeah. Splitting it at the door, just like they did last night. Split it at the door.
Yeah.
Talk about they're having a debate when they're having a debacle. Get out of here. But this is their edict.
Yep.
You think these people are saying that they're not Moors because of some school of thought, whatever, and somebody thinks they're smarter than somebody because Noble Drew Ali stuff is old and we need some new thing or whatever? No, these people have an edict on their head. These Moriscos that want to keep you away from your birthright, tell you about everything, Let's just say the earth is flat. Let's just say the earth is flat. For real, right now. Let's just say, okay, you know what? The earth is flat. Something changing for you tomorrow?
Yeah.
What's changed right now? If we all say, okay, yes, the earth is flat right now. What's changing tomorrow? Something? You think these people still not gonna billy club you to death or whatever? Keep playing.
Remember, we kill black people.
Remember? Yeah. Don't forget.
Earth's flat.
Earth's flat, but they're gonna be killing black people though. You got no time to worry with Moors, because they already know that we're celestial. And then stop letting these people come around with their, baseball hats only and stuff like that, and saying that they're Moors and they got some Moorish whatever. Stop saying that you're Moors. If you're not gonna fez up or turban up or whatever, don't say you're Moors and stuff. Right? Islam to Anonymous always got his baseball hat with his fez on over it. If you're gonna wear a baseball hat. And don't be a biter now. This is their edict.
You gotta watch the Moorish biters.
This is their edict. We are not out here on some bash whoever. Look it. The Moors just in the chat. So hold on a second. So you mean hold on a second? Wait a minute. Let me see. Now I know that when the Nation of Islam started in 1930, they had members already. Nobody ever questioned where those members come from. Nobody. It's hard to question when all you do is change the sign on the building.
Yes.
Think about that. That's how they did it. Right in front of these people's face, like dumbasses, that they knew that they were dumbasses. Because remember, these are the people who were part of the circle around Noble Drew Ali, who got all the information that they were supposed to give to the people so they could get their birthright. But they didn't do that. They kept that to themselves, created their little lodges within these little organizations.
That's why he put out the letters to be read before every meeting, right around that time.
So everybody knows.
Because he's seen it already.
Yeah, he's a prophet. Saw it and called him on it. Saw it, called him on it. He gets assassinated in 29, and then 1930, all these different groups start popping up. From Islamic to Hebrew to whatever. And then here you are today, lost.
Yep.
Following all these things, calling themselves nations that have nothing to do with nationality. Nothing. All they're about is stealing your birthright. Keeping you Negro, black, colored. Remember, they came out, the heads of Nation of Islam came out of Moor Science Temple of America. So once you proclaim your nationality at the Moor, you can't say you're not a Moor after. Now, you can't take that off. Because that's why he said this is divine and national.
Right.
Now the more is asking that he wants to link up with some Moors because Moors are dropping some jewels right now. So for someone like him, where should he start? And what's claiming his Moor status? Anybody could jump in on that one.
Islam.
And don't forget, I still got the edict. Don't worry, we're gonna read it. But you know,
Right.
since we got this Moore's attention right here, let's let him know how it really supposed to be when you engage Moors, instead of that fake stuff that they've been accustomed to, where they think that they're going to church and they don't want nothing to do with Moorish anything.
Right.
So
Right. That's very, very important.
Very important.
Very important.
Right. So yeah, more. So the question was, where should he start? Just finding out about this, and what's claiming his Moorish status.
You could go, Brother Yusuf.
All right. Islam. Proclaiming of the Moorish status. What's proclaiming your Moorish status? What's proclaiming your Moorish status? I'm trying to see if I should. All right, it's properly said. Okay, proclaiming your Moorish, well, proclaim or declare, because that's the first thing you want to do. You want to be clear of who you are. That's the first thing. First thing, which is the most important thing. Because once you're clear of who you are, the proclaiming is going to come regular. You just have to be clear of who you are. Once you're clear in your mind and in yourself, that you know, like, I'm not Negro, colored, black, African American, etc. Like, my nationality is Moorish American. Like, and then when you know what nationality brings you in law, what nationality means in law, and what having a nationality means in the world, then you'll start to see what it means and what it is to be who you are. Because the hardest thing in the world is being yourself. That's going to be the hardest thing in the world. Because and another reason why when you do all of this, remember, don't go out there running all crazy. We're 100 years behind. Remember, 1930, Nation of Islam changed the sign on the building.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of, once you're clear of who you are, remember, we got a lot of catching up to do. So don't go out there, thinking I'm about to rub this genie body and I'm going to get everything in the world. That's not, once again, once you know who you are, you'll see. Like, that's not what this is about anyway. You know what I mean? So you really want to be clear of us being Moorish American. That's the number one thing. Being clear and then proclaiming, that's easy. That's easy. Being clear of who you are, that's the hard part.
Yeah, that's what determines the status, right?
Right, because say you're 30, say you're 30, you've been clear that you've been black for 30 years. So you have to, to get, I would say, to undo that, you have to go through, I'm clear for another 30 years that I'm a Moor to undo that. That's what I'm saying. Like, when I say be clear, you have to be clear of who we are. You know what I mean? Because we just went through some stuff, brother. You know what I mean? I hear the brother Jimmy coming in, so I'm gonna yield the floor.
Nah, bro. Like, you really taking up stuff that I was about to tell him. All I can do now is just, like I say, camel back off of that. Just like what you just said with that 30, bro. I swear, I'm not lying. I said the same thing. I'm 28. I said, so if I had 28 years of nigger stuff, I know I have at least another 28, standing on what I'm standing on now.
Right.
And going back to what you were basically telling the brother is that to get clear first, places you could go. I went to RVB, right? And from RVB, you know, it was other, like, it's things from there that will send you in other directions, but you would know that you're on a loadier path when you start there. You know, for the people who like to pop in and pop out, you know, read 2 words and then be like, I don't get it. You know, that's not the site for you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
If you, like you said, how do you proclaim your status, right? Okay, the brother Yusuf just told you to be clear. Now, on your way, you will have to start investing in what you want to know. And on that route, you will get, you know, dictionaries amongst those, 1 or 2 or 3, you know, have some etymology. And I say that because don't get caught up in the words that people throw out, because status means standing. If you see a word and it says STA, STI, stuff like this, like constitution, institution, you know, that represents or means standing from the jump. So when you're saying, how do I proclaim my moral status? Well, that's when you start standing up saying you're moral. That's when you start standing on something you never stood on a day in your life.
Yeah.
And that's something that's going to change your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You jumped out of parachute, change your life or whatever? No. There's something way deeper going on. Way deeper going on.
Like if we can admit that this white man that stole so much from us, why do we believe that we can just get it back like that? If he had to put us through 400 years, right, how they like to say the slave stuff, 400 years, you make you think we just gonna come, you know, get it all back in shoes. We want it back in more than half of a fraction. Like, we want it overnight. If it took him 400 years to do what he did to us, like that's the narrative they put on us, why do you think it won't take you 400 years to go take it back? Mm. And I'm not saying at all that they did that to us for 400 years, because correcting your status, you'll find out that that is a farce. Mm-hmm. They wish, they like corporations do, they projected that they want to go for 400 years. There wasn't no 400 years. Yep.
Speaking of the corporation, with them being a corporation, and again on the you being clear of who you are, because once you're clear of who you are, you see the illusions of the world. So once you know who you are, you know who they are. You know, so that's why it's most important to be clear of who you are. Because as soon as you know who you are, you know what's going on. You know who they are. Like the brother said, corporations. He know who he is, and he know who they are. Your language starts. That's what he was saying. When you get the dictionaries, your language starts changing. You start speaking with the proper jurisdiction. You know, you don't speak colored anymore. You know what I mean? Like you studying. You're studying. You're breaking that spell, that curse, that black. You're breaking it. You know, that's the whole declare your nationality, proclaim your nationality. That's of course we're gonna need the paperwork, of course. But if you don't have a thought process, you can't put nothing on paper. You gotta think first. You know what I mean? Like you gotta have studied first. You can't just be writing rich and you don't know nothing. That's why I say once you clear who you are, and you're rich be a paragraph. You ain't even. I'm not even playing with these people anymore. Like, I know exactly what's going on. I know who you are. You're not gonna sit here and do all of this back and forth. Nope, I know who you are. You don't gotta. It's not all. Nope, it's not all of that. I know what's going on because I'm clear of who I am. So that's the whole declaring your nationality as Moorish American or whoever. Well, we all know the whole world is Morocco because that's what they soon gonna have to get to. So because like the book said, we are all Moors, but so we're gonna have to all proclaim our nationality as Moors.
Yeah, that's why I say on the first bill that even these people who say they're from France and all of this stuff, that's not your nationality because that's a corporation. I got to go back to saying I'm of Moorish descent. I'm of Moorish descent all over the world. That's why the prophets say, "One's love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is practiced amongst whom?" Amongst the amongst everybody. So that's when the lion and the sheep lay down together. Because what he's saying is, when all y'all stop playing and go back to the Moorish origin, then we gonna really go back to Islam, which is peace. That's why everybody loves the Moors rule. When we're not dealing with dogma and we really dealing with the science, you know, just like the Manly P. Hall, and I think it's the origins of the Rosicrucian, where he said that they referred to when we was in power as the golden age.
Mm-hmm. Dropping keys. Dropping keys. Because nobody's going to relate that to the golden age of the Moors.
Right.
They just think he's talking scholarly.
Mm-hmm.
But he's specifically talking about Moorish history. Which again goes back to the thing that Brother Jeremy is saying, is that these people know that they have to tie themselves to the ancient bloodline. Whether they got to give it an honorable mention, whether they got to wear a brooch, whether they got to, you know, put out some line of whatever. People get mad, say it's Blackamoor stuff and they're mad. Whatever. They have to tie themselves. And it's a shame how it's only our people that don't want to tie themselves to it. But these people put
get mad too.
Get mad? Let's let them get mad. Because this is their edict right here. From their head. This letter was signed by Elizabeth I on the 11th of July, 1596, and it is addressed to the aldermen and mayors of London and other cities. It reads, an open letter to the Lord Mayor of London and the aldermen his brethren and all other mayors, sheriffs, and her majesty, understanding that there are a late divers blackamoors brought into this realm, of which kind of persons there are ready here too many, considering how God has blessed this land with great increase of people of our own nation, as any country in the world, whereof many of want the service and means to set them on work fall to idleness and to great extremity. Her Majesty pleasure, therefore, that these kind of people should be sent forth of the land. And for that purpose, there is direction given to this bearer, Edward Baines, to take of those blackamoors that in this last voyage under Sir Baskerville were brought into this realm to the number of 10,
to be transported by him out of the realm, wherein we require you to be AY whatever, and assisting unto him as he shall have occasion and thereof not to fail. The letter is signed by Queen Elizabeth, but it seems more likely that it was written by a member of her Privy Council, or Edward Baines, who is mentioned in it. Edward Baines was an English adventurer and merchant who appears to have been involved in activities related to this letter up until 1597. But after the date, his name does not appear in any of the correspondence relating to this or the second letter, and this may mean that he ceased being involved in this project. So they want you to not know about the blackamoors, which is yourself. When they want to take these people out of the realm, realm is not land. What do you mean they want to take the blackamoors out of the realm? They're not talking land. Remember, these are people 1500s?
Yep.
They're not what you see today in 1500s. Remember, these people had to remove the blackamoors because there were too many already there. Their realm is that jurisdiction that they created, just like UDOTS has a realm that they created. Canada Corps has a realm that they created. People think that they're part of that realm. These people said, kick them out that realm. And you have people today still but that's not the realm anymore because, like we already know, motu proprio, all these people's stuff is done. Pope told these people, everything's done. It's on his website that you can go read, motu proprio. So it's all about self-governance, but you're not going to self-govern as Negro. You're not going to self-govern as some African slaves or some Indians, some black Indians. Only what's going to happen is that as Moors. And for people to be idiotic and make foolish reference points like, well, blackamoors are only statues.
Come on.
Blackamoors are only figurines. If those figurines and statues are of people, you're a dumbass. And again, this is blackamoors, Africans in Tudor England, their presence, status, and origins. Going through up and down throughout Europe, finding out the fact that, hey, hold on a second, the Moors actually were the ones ruling. You see a man with a plate and it's a figurine. Oh, well, he's holding a plate because he's a servant. Yes, but you think his king or whatever was some European? If he's a servant? If the blackamoor is a servant, you think it was some European that was the servant looking like that, dressed that elaborate. If this is the servant that's dressed that elaborate, you mean to tell me that his king or queen was some European? Get the hell out of here. Because there's no European ever that was a master that treated their slave like that. You find me some European that was a master of somebody, and let me see his slaves, and you tell me if you ever saw in history when Europeans were masters that their slaves were treated like royalty. Get to wear silks and all that, to carry a plate. Got their custom turban wrapper, but he's a slave for some king. That's a European? FOH. The servants wearing jewels and all that type of stuff. Big jewel earrings, the servant holding a plate. Who the hell's his master?
Islam.
Islam more.
They can, they can get the book, The Moorish Empire in Europe, 3 volumes from S.P. Scott. And he speaks of the Europeans when they were held in slavery to the Moors. Also that they used to be able to not only get to sit in the silks and the best clothing of the slave master, the Moor, but he also got to sit at the head of the table. This the slaves. So they did not, just to add on, in the book, The Moorish Empire in Europe, S.P. Scott. Yeah. Speaking of,
And just to add on top of that, coming from this Nabil Matar, Turks, Moors, and Englishmen in the Age of Discovery, it's a passage where it goes and it says, the Turks and Moors belong to the most powerful of all non-Christian civilizations with which Britons were engaged. They also belong to the international community of trade, diplomacy, and military rivalry that marked England's foray into the age of the Mediterranean and Atlantic discovery. Although from the Elizabethan period on, the English were beginning to develop their Anglo-centric view of the world, they were deeply aware that they had to contend with the powerful and sometimes confrontational and aggressive Islamocentrism. From Stirling to London, from Tunis to Istanbul, from Bristol to New England, Turks and Moors reminded them that the world did not revolve around Albion. And they didn't even call it England, they call it Albion.
Mm-hmm.
So you better realize, why George Washington had to call the Sultan his great and magnanimous friend.
Mm-hmm.
Our plan.
right, Islam.
Islam more.
Y'all can hear me? You can?
Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, more.
Okay. Because I want to add on to the so-called Blackamoors is only a statue. Okay, this is a dissertation, PhD. It's called the classification of Native Americans as mulattoes in Anglo North America. Right? It says in contemporary scholarly and popular literature in the United States has largely ignored the significance of widespread Native American ancestry among Afro-Americans and also of African ancestry among Native groups. The consequences of this neglect are far-reaching, and this is especially true in relation to the studies of the evolution of music, folk tales, social organization, and other aspects of culture. Now, in it gives the definition of mestizos. Now, this is what the Spaniards, or the Spanish, quote unquote, when they came over here, and what they were describing the so-called people or Indians here, they were calling mestizos, right? It says English writers began using the term mulatto. Forgive me, not mestizos, mulatto. It says English writers began using the term mulatto, mulatto, or mulatta in the 1590s. The term was borrowed from Spanish and usually referred to persons met within the Caribbean or South America. So the mulattoes in the 1590s referred to people in the Caribbean or South America, right? Early Spanish definitions of the term make it highly probable, indeed virtually certain, that such persons were usually half African and half American. John Minshew, as already noted, defined mulatto in 1599 through 1617, and later as a person who was the child of a mortal or blackamoor.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. And this in Nature Knows No Color Line. The same thing.
And one from another nation, yep. And then it also says John Floro in 1611 does not include mulatto in his dictionary, but has mulatto, a little young mule or mulo or a horse mule, also a bastard or misbegotten. Henry Cochran in 1623 does not have mulatto, but has a blackamoor, Ethop. And then it says Thomas Blunt in 1656 continues the Minshew definition: mulatto, the son of a blackamoor, and a man of another nation, or contra, one that is of a mongrel complexion. A mulatto is a great mule. So again and again, they refer to the Caribbean, the people of the Caribbean or South America, as mulattoes, which by definition, by all these English writers, was called blackamoors. I just wanted to add on to what the Green Sheep was going in on too.
There's a lot more, and to add it on that again, some Tudor writers use the word blackamoor, a conjunction of the words black and moor, to describe Africans. For all the Africans out there, all the Africans call themselves X and whatever like that, instead of having a free national name, but they call themselves a nation. All those people.
Yep.
Black and moor, used in conjunction, remember, only, was used to describe Africans. This is confirmed by the books of Andrew Boorde, Andrew, Boorde, and John Porry's translations of Leo Africanus. Moreover, not just that, but moreover, these words written as blackamoor or blackamoor were commonly used by Tudor writers such as George Best to describe Africans living in Tudor England. These words can be found in the parish record of Cornelius Blackamore. Cornelius Black, B-L-A-C-K-E, Amore, M-O-R-E. The co-joined word Blackamore is also used as a significant number of other parish records, such as Susan's baptism on 1 July 1596, a daughter of a Blackamore. In Europe, during the medieval and early modern period, however, the word Moor could be used to describe Africans without the adjective black. This is because the word Moor itself means black. So if Moor means black, if chair means something to sit on, you'll never call a chair something to sit on. You call it a chair. If Moor means black, why would you call yourself black? Just call yourself Moor. Why would you call yourself the definition of the word? Think up of a word. Think up of a word. Did you think about the definition first or the word first?
Right.
Save yourself, get a life. Blackamoors. The Africans are blackamoors. They told you that black's an adjective. What more is there?
Not only that, what about the tawny Moors? You know, that's just showing you that that's just describing the Moor. But, you know, still a Moor. But nobody did tell you about black or more black, just to even put the black in there. But nobody want to mention the tawny Moor, which would be exactly what it is. Just if you call it a black or more, that would be explaining or describing a tan or, you know, a brown Moor.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely put in the bait and switch. Because they'll even say that, here we go. As a result, in books such as Minshew Spanish Dictionary, the word Moor is connected to the words moros, Moor, M-A-U-R, Mudara, M-U-D-A-R-R-A, which are used to describe Africans from Spain. So the use of these words by 16th century writers is not just a reflection of their inability to follow modern rules of grammar. Rather, I suggest these words, when used in parish records or other documents, reflect the word Moor's linguistic and rich cultural heritage, and this is why, and its variants were used to describe Africans, including dark-skinned in Tudor England. Elliot Percival Skinner, Nabil Matar, and Joseph Greenberg suggested that the word Moor was not used in this way, and their views seem to be supported by anthropological statements by UNESCO, but Tudor writers such as John Pori and Edward Blunt define the word Moor quite differently. They use it interchangeably with blackamoor. This same approach is followed in Minshu's dictionary, where he uses the color black to define and describe who Moors are. Uses the color black to define and describe who the Moors are. Black is used to define and describe who the Moors are. The Moors are. Huh?
Now I'm saying that's all black could do. Describe.
Describe. The Moors are Moro, a blackamoor of Berber or a nigger. Morones, Moronez, a blackish, swarthy color. I suggest that this seems to have been a standard approach for using these terms, giving up the 18th century, and can be seen in the revised edition of Samuel Johnson's dictionary, where he writes Morpos, Greek, Niger, Moor, a Negro, a blackamoor. In these examples, these words all describe Africans and emphasize the blackness of their complexion. The same approach is adopted by a significant number of other books and documents written in Tudor England. So the black is being used to describe. The blackness is their complexion, even if they look brown. But it's only used to describe. African is a misnomer because people don't come from continents. So there's no such thing as an African. The name of these people who are dark-skinned, swarthy, tawny, whatever, is Moor. And that's what they have to start connecting themselves to. If we're even going to attempt to get out this madness. And all these people playing these games with you, know that they're working off of having an edict to make you not know about Moors and your Moorish bloodline. There's a lot of Moors.
Wow.
You got anything to add on?
Just, man, I could hit him in the head one more. Let's see. All right.
Killing it right now.
This is coming out of. I got so many, bro. I'm trying to, you know.
Yeah, yo. Pull them. Don't worry. You got time.
Yeah, I'm right.
Pull them.
So, just to add on to the description, you know, it said, coming from Ivan Van Sertima, good and needed a more. And he goes, the original black Berbers who were called Moors were the North African ancestors of the present day dark brown and brown black peoples of the Sahara and the Sahel, mainly those called Fulani, Tuareg, Zanaga of southern Morocco, Kunta, that means even roots, he was telling you, and Chebu of the Sahel countries, as well as other black Arabs now living in Mauritania and throughout the Sahel. They include the Raza of Mauritania and Senegal of Moghraba, as well as dozens of other Sudanese tribes, the Chamba of Chad and Algeria. And then goes on to say, hold on. The evidence Reynolds presents to establish the Africoid base of the Berber is challenged by Wayne Chandler, who insists that the Berbers were already heavily mixed with the Caucasoid element before the Moorish invasion. He goes on to say they were classified as tawny Moors and are to be distinguished as feet from the blacker Moors, and that's simply because of the description. They are the result of mixing of black Africans, the Garamantes of the Sahara, with a race of white Libyans, which we know that's like going back to what I said, you gotta kind of decipher what these people do, you know. But that was just another one, man, just to show you, like, even all the people, like I said, in these places who say, oh, I'm Nigerian, I'm Algerian, I'm from, all of these things, I'm Mauritanian, all of this stuff is cool, but that's corporate, that's modern. We're going back to the bloodline, like, who are you? We are the same people. No matter what names they about to give you, like, I just read all of these names and stuff, but if you didn't hear that passage and was like more, and more, and more, and more, don't draw the separation, And also, it's another. It's like a chart in the unexpected faces in ancient America by Alexander von Rutenau, and we have a chart, and at the top is Aboriginal Semites. Now, like I shared in class before, was that the word Aboriginal or anything, all of that is derived from the term or the word Orient, referring to the East. And in this chart, it said the Aboriginal Semites, now going into the Eastern Semites, you have Babylonians, Assyrians, you have Northwestern Semites, you have Canaanites, Arameans, Phoenicians, Moabite Hebrews, right? Then you go into the Southern Semites, saying that that's the ancient South Arabians, Northern Arabians, Saudi Arabians, and Ethiopians. So here's another chart just showing you that y'all part of the same family. Even the people who, talk to Hebrew Israelite, saying that we are really Hebrew when we keep telling y'all we are the same people. Stop saying what we saying is wrong, because be what I want to, what I'm pushing, which is the agenda. Agent and agenda is synonymous. Etymology, dealing with the etymology. So everybody got their own agenda. Be what I am, push what I am, instead of what we saying. All that's cool, but we the same. We're all Moors. Stop playing. We all Moors.
Well, you just said the key word.
That's when you see the M word, that's when the DJ, somebody hit the DJ booth and you hit it. That's what stopped the party.
All right, boy. What has a question? Hold on a second. I have a question. In reviewing my honorary membership, I see that it says Moorish Consulate on the paperwork. Why is this so? That's just to show you that we've been said that we're consulate. These people are not doing something new. That you think that they're doing something. And that's our personal stuff that we're holding for you. So we're taking that position. But we're not a consulate. We're more Science Temple. That's just admin.
What would you call this? What we're doing right now?
Right. So don't get too crazy. It's only a membership form. Birthrights in your mind. Another question. Since our ancestors founded the government over here, how can we truly make them honor the Treaty of Tripoli? My question to you is, why would you want them to honor the Treaty of Tripoli? Because what Moors have to start doing is getting out of thinking that their recognition means something. They're a corpse. Their recognition, they don't have honor. You're not dealing with people who founded the Republic with the Moors. You're dealing with infiltrators. You're dealing with people who bought the seats that bought the seats that bought the seats. You're not dealing with some legitimate whatever that you think that you and them are going to have some type of relations. You better understand what your national and birthrights is. Don't worry about some treaty. Don't worry about that. You will get some knowledge of self. Because even if we told you right now how to enforce the treaty, you're going to go out and do it. And then their counter move, you're not going to know what to do. Then you're going to be blaming us about you were on here and we told you to go do something that you shouldn't have did. And guarantee it's going to go like that because it's went like that, been there, done that. So to eliminate you getting into some BS because you think you're going to enforce some treaty on some people who they violate so much. I don't know what the hell you're talking about enforcing something on them. Like these people are somebody who are not mercenaries or something like that. Don't you see they came out on Front Street, hey, we kill black people. People still call themselves black.
Not only that, these people operate in the name only.
Right? Loading with a rifle. You load your rifle, open your door, your house blow up. That's how these people run. What are you talking about rifles? What are you talking about rifle when these people already have your fridge booby trapped? When you open your fridge, your house is gonna blow up. Well, you got some rifles or whatever? You got some hunting club? You think you're gonna do something with these people? Get the hell out of here. What are you talking about? You think this is freaking Fortnite or some shit like that?
Why is it that people why do people go to, like, that's the route they want you to take?
That's what they want you to do.
That's what gives them the leeway to gun you down.
Because everything that you do, right, as Negro, black, colored, is going to be judged based on the Christian black codes. So you might want to go, if you think you're black, go read the Christian black codes. And then you tell me if that's not your life right now. Everything that's going on in there. Anybody you know, call yourself that, there's something in there, one of those 54 articles, there's going to be something relative to you. That's because that's a ritual they put on you. Thinking that you don't need a nationality. Nationality doesn't mean anything.
Oh, but that's the white man's dictionary.
That's the white man's dictionary. That doesn't mean what it means. We could make up our own stuff. Yeah? Like we said, people could say whatever about whoever that's, you know, causing them grief right now that doesn't look like them. That BS that you see them play with Negroes, they don't play that with Moors. It's live or die with Moors. Because you're not living as a slave. If you can't live as a Moor, then there ain't nothing else. It's not some jump off.
Telling you.
It's not some jump off. This is not some you know, Beyonce concert. You want front row seats to the Moorish or whatever.
Nope.
That ain't what this is.
I remember the mother said earlier, she was saying how in one of the classes, a couple classes back, she had said, like, has this what a luxurious estate come to, our birthright has come to, you know, like, and I got it, like, all the little pet peeve stuff we all try to run to and get over on, like, that's what our birthright is about. And I was like, wow, like that really did, like, make me look like, man, everybody ripping and running around, like, okay, I'm gonna get a trust, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Is that what our bloodline is about? You know what I mean? Like, that really did. Is that what coming back and knowing who our nationality, you know, like our bloodline, our consanguinity, our culture and stuff, all that quick fix, you know, stuff that we look to do, does that have to do with any of that? And like, and I had to look at that. I was like, wow, that really is like an overall shebang.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I know we gotta study the law because we study the law, but people studying, trying to, you know, doing everything to try to do a quick fix so they can get the materialistic stuff, which we not supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? But like, if you doing correcting, you know, saying you doing that credit stuff, whatever, I mean, you correcting it, and you trying to use it to do a school or something like that, yeah. But if you fixing the credit because you know who you are, you know how to do it just so you can go on shopping spree, like, come on, man, that's not what, none of that's supposed to be like. And I think a lot of Moors, they come into the information looking for a quick fix, a quick genie rub, a quick, okay, I can get rich by just saying who I am. And like,
some crazy
rich,
ones.
Rich don't, if you look up the word rich, when you start studying, like if you look up rich don't say nothing about money. The word money is not even in rich. Not even in there. So like, what are we really doing? You know what I mean? That's what I'd be like, okay, we still got, like we said earlier, you 30, you came in black 30 years, you got 30 years to get out, to be more. And then maybe you can start doing things.
Then you can write some writs.
Now you yield the floor.
That's loud.
Let me check all this stuff.
Just wanted to put this one out here too. In 982, they defeated the flower of Christendom under Otto II of Germany. unmixed Negro troops, most of them from Ethiopia and Sudan, were furnishing a large part of the Moorish or Saracen. In Africa, the Moors continued to be a leading power, and with no little extent in India also. They dominated the Mediterranean and the northern Atlantic and plundered the coast of the Western Europe and British Isles. They even conquered and ruled parts of Scotland. David McRitchie, eminent British archaeologist, says, so late as the 10th century, 3 of these provinces were wholly black, and the supreme ruler of them became, for a time, the paramount king of transmarine Scotland. Right? David McRitchie. They were wholly black. That's just their description. That's not who they are. Right? And again, like we said, that's just admin. If you want a new form, send your email, canaanlandguide@gmail.com, and you'll get the new form. So that way, it doesn't say consulate on there, and you could feel more comfortable with the form being filled out. Because it's real weird that we don't have anything that we're promoting or expressing or putting out there that we're some consulate or whatever. You see that on the form, question it. It's a Roman venue. But you don't hear us talk from that platform. Tell you, the membership is honorary. So that was Nature Knows No Color Line, J.A. Rogers. Continue, all of them, continually letting you know, always letting you know, always letting you know that you're talking about bloodline. They're not talking about how people look when they say Moors. When they say black, they're talking about how people look. Unconscious Moors, take it like they're talking about that's what people are. And the email again is canaanlandguide@gmail.com. Canaanland, Guide, @gmail.com. Islam, Moors, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I got another one.
Islam.
All right. This is from what is this called? I don't know. But the book is Great Ages of Man in Ancient America. And in the first chapter, the chapter is titled "The Earliest Americans," and I'm gonna just read a few passages out of here. And it says, on the thousands of miles of coastline explored, no civilization or substantial wealth has yet been found. Oh, and by the way, they're speaking on Columbus. Take that back. They're speaking on his interaction with the people in the Americas first coming here. And says, on the thousands of miles of coastline explored, no civilization or substantial wealth has yet been found. The primitive inhabitants, misnamed Indians because Columbus thought he was near India, had hardly any possessions. And when they were forced by the Spaniards to work as slaves, they died almost at once. There was plenty of good farmland, but the fierce adventurers who swarmed across the Atlantic had no love for farming. Fresh from fighting in northern Spain, they were eager for gold and glory, and neither was in sight. Only a steady trickle of rumors kept their hopes alive. During Columbus's last voyage in 1502, he met off the coast of Honduras a canoe, long as a galley, with a thatched cabin amidships, a 25-man crew, and a cargo that included copper hatchets and bells. The female passengers were not naked like other Indians. They wore decent cotton dresses and covered their faces modestly like Moorish women. So that's showing you that it's the cosmic mirror. If they, like, there's no such, that's why even like the book Brother Yusuf reads from, We Are All Moors, like when you study, you get to that point and you realize this truth right here. Same thing that David and Richie talk about, what J. Rogers speaks about, to the point where he, like, if you really need to know New Color Line and you don't come from that book and be like, yeah, everybody Moors, even whoever from Europe, all of that. You don't come from any section, race, all of that, then something is really wrong with you or with your comprehension, because it was known. The cosmic mirror was over there, is over here. You know, they said that they didn't dress naked like other Indians. They wore decent cotton dresses for their faces modestly like Moorish women. And this comes with the first chapter titled The Earliest American. So there's something to think about for the people who, just, want to fight and I don't know. Like, but you can't deny it. That's why the prophet said, without doubt or contradiction. Right?
Without doubt or contradiction.
Islam, I get it.
Islam. Brother Yusuf, you want to close out with our favorite book right now?
Right. Islam. Green Sheep. I little more use my book. I had to. The more I was listening to class, he was like, yo, please just let me use this. All right. But Green Sheep, I don't know, maybe that breakdown I was giving you earlier.
Oh yeah. Yeah, talk about it. We can close out on that.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So I was studying earlier, and it got hours went by, but I was reading a book about it was just referring to how people who were able to read like the ancient books like the Bible, the Quran, the Septuagint, and whatnot, who were able to decipher it, like those people's minds had to be like of gods and whatnot. You know what I mean? So it and it just intrigued me. Like, okay, well, maybe I can try out the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. So I looked at it. So make a long, but I was looking at it. So I was like, okay, let me try it. But I already knew it wasn't going to be as easy as what it was. So what I did was I just tried to take my time and do what I tried to see if I can decipher something. So the thing was, before I haven't even opened up the book, just the cover alone is mind-boggling. Like, okay. So when you look at the picture, right? When you look at the front cover of the Holy Quran, it has the picture within the book, right? If you measure the book long way, it's 7 inches, right? We all know circle 7. The book itself inside the middle is 7 inches. If you measure it the long way, it's 4 inches. We all know the 4 quadrants. You know what I mean? The 4 seasons or whatnot. And then also, okay, what I did was, if you look at the bars that go around in like a little rectangle or whatnot, if you see the circles inside of it, I counted them. It was it's 64 going horizontal, and it's no, my fault. It's 45 going horizontal, and 24 going the west way. And when you add them up on each side, it comes to 138. And then when you do 138, 1, 3, and 8, it's 12. You got the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? Now, when you look at it again, I hope y'all got it in front of y'all. If you look at it again, now in the corners of the circle 7 and whatnot, if you see the little stars in the corner, there's 4 each, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times 16. 4 times 4 is 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. Back to the 7 again, right? Then, if you look at the diamonds in the corners, right? Each diamond, there's 3 diamonds inside the diamond. So then you count it again. 3, 6, 9, 12. 12 signs of the zodiac again, right? So then, inside the diamonds, there's little crosses, right? Each cross got 4 lines. 4 lines, 4 times 4 is 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. Back to the 7 again. Okay. Now, that was when I was looking, just breaking down the designs around it. Now, when you look at it and you read it, it says the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. And then, all right, just look at the red part of the book, right? So the titles in the red, the 7 is in the red, and Drew Ali's title is in the red, right? So you see the 7, right? It's red. Drew Ali's title, when you add it up, is 7, right? When you add up the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, it's 43 letters. 4 and 3 is 7. I haven't even opened up the book yet. I've had this book for years, and right in front of it, he's giving you. We already know. We already know the symbol. The 7 inside of the circle with the 4 quadrants. We can break that down all day, but the little intricate things, mind-boggling. I said, "Come on, man! Just the cover alone, he was already giving it to us." The cover alone, you didn't even have to open it yet. Cover alone, he's giving it to you.
Wow.
And I yield the floor. That took me like 6 hours to figure that out. And that's nothing. That's nothing, You're not even opening up the book yet, Just sitting there, just little thoughts, questions come into my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, boom, like I don't know, something just like the girl, she said, Allah told you, because it just came to my head. But count the circles. And I was like, okay, counted the circles. And then it was like, yo, count the stars. I was like, all right, counted the stars. And I'm like, yo,
when you hear, count the circles.
Come on, man. I said, yo, he's killing them in the front. I said, how is it 777 like that, man? Like the 7 is red. Drew Ali, you add up the title is 7. And then when the whole title, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Symbol of Science, is 43 letters. 4 plus 3 equals 7. Man, that's crazy. And that's the red. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
And that's when you get metaphysical over there.
Yep.
Right.
That all that Egyptian addict is coming out now.
Right. I'm sitting there like, hold on, man. I can do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hold on. I know I can do this, man. I know I can figure this out.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And and I had to pull out the ruler. I was like, something told me to measure it. There's no, like I said, there was no like pamphlet for me to follow. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that was bugging me out too. Like all this stuff just kept popping in my head. Well, measure it. Measure the book. The book itself is 9 inches, and then the book within the book is 7 inches.
Yep. Yeah.
Just measuring it, man.
And then you could also look at the same four quadrants or the 4 corners as the heraldry shields. Like when they have like the like the heraldry borders for their proclamations and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yep.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, right in the cover. That's how I know. I said, yo, he's the man, brother.
Yeah.
He's the man.
I'm over here bugging out. I'm over here. I'm over here counting them over for real. Right now.
Count the circles.
Bugging me out. I had to count them. I counted them. I said my eyes started squinting, and I'm like, oh, they're so little. I counted them like
I got my finger pointing on it right now.
Yeah, there's 138 of them.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And then you add 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 8 is 12. Back to the 12 signs of the zodiac. Right back to it. He never, he kept going to it. But 7, 12, 7, 12. I'm like, yo, wait a minute. Every time.
And then you have when you look at the dark part, right? So you look at the red, and then now you have the other part. You have the circle with the quadrants, right, which is the 12. And then you have divinely prepared by the noble prophet.
Divinely prepared by the noble prophet.
Hey, wait. Oh, dang, divinely though. Remember, he said, I want you to know the truth and the divine truth.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, man, y'all, dang, what is how it goes? This how it be.
Yep.
Hold on. about to go into the etymology real quick. Divine.
Title, the cover alone, you can go in on it. You can write a whole book about the cover.
For real. I'm sure if you get some microscope on this, those little circles are something.
Yeah,
it's something.
I was underneath the light, like I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
In the dungeon.
So we have divine, Deus, a god, or a contraction. Latin Diana, going on to becomes Middle Latin divinus, of or by or for a god, right? The gods also inspired by them. So when he used the word divine, you know, you gotta understand. But he not speaking about, you know, like God, you know, just how he's speaking of or pertaining to, you know, the same thing that spoke to Yusuf.
Right. Yeah.
So even with the creation of the cover, the choosing of these symbols, you know, even how they intertwine, going back to when he was speaking in Golden Age of the Moors about when we brought geometry and the science behind it. So like when people love Moorish architecture and all of that, and the science that we use, that was really geometry. So even when you're looking at this thing, I'm looking at it right now. Even for his choice to have it like that, for him to even be pointing out to be, oh, that look like the diamond, or you know. So man, it's just crazy that it's divinely prepared. You know, like just how Yusuf saying somebody told him to count the circles. They probably told the prophet, make this cover. You know what I'm saying? For real though, you know? Make it just like this, like for real. So people gotta realize that, you know.
Yeah. It's that real.
Yeah, and then right, just real quick, the see how I say Moorish Holy Temple, like the when you do the etymon of temple, the temple is a noun, right? It's a Latin word, templum, templum. It says open or consecrated space. Consecrated would mean like a sacred place or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's the etymon of temple. Mm-hmm. Open or consecrated place.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have science, which means to know or to knowledge, know. Right?
Right.
Let's read it.
Right.
In the form. Moorish, holy, open, consecrated place of knowledge. You know, going back to what is more science.
Okay. Do it again, because we're laughing. We gotta do it again.
Oh, all right. Well, all right. Well, real quick too, add in holy is a Middle English word, haleg. It means sacred.
All right.
So you can say more sacred. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the whole thing.
And what was temple again?
Open or consecrated space
of knowledge.
Yeah. Wow.
If you choose that.
Yeah, Moorish, sacred, consecrated place, space of knowledge.
Then you have the seven. Then you have the seven right under it, which is what they put Jesus' head in the middle of, right?
Yeah.
Right? Don't they put his head in there?
Yeah.
Representing the activation of the Christ degree.
Yeah.
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 And then also with Drew Ali being written in red and the seven being in red, him representing the seven. Yeah. Him representing the seven, you know, the living being, the most holy temple of science, and the seven is manifest in Noble Drew Ali.
Oh man.
And then he closes it with, by the guiding of his father God Allah, just like Morris said.
Right.
The great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah.
Islam right there. There right there.
That's real.
Yeah, they're not talking like that in those temples over there. You know what I mean? Like, they doing church, man.
Yeah.
They didn't break down the astronomical event in the front cover. They didn't talk about that. The numerology. They didn't break down nothing. Nothing.
That's our science, though, right? That's our science.
It's the book. It's the book. It's the book they be talking about all the time. The prophet said that. That's their book. That's the book. Yep. They do it just like they did the Bible. The Bible says that. You ain't never even read it. They don't know how to read. That's why I really know. I'm like, nah, we really don't know how to read. When I broke the cover down, I said, okay, now I'm reading.
Now you're
I had the book forever.
Yeah.
I had the book like 8 years, 7, 8 years. Like, come on, man. I had the book forever.
Nothing before its time, yo. Nothing before its time.
I had the book forever. And I just today was like, yeah, let me look at this thing. You've been looking at it. You can quote verses and everything. Do the whole shebang.
Never.
You know what I mean?
Never heard the voice, count the circles.
That came today. And that be the, oh, you think you know something, those little pebbles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He hitting you right there, like you think you know something.
Those little when you just got your haircut and somebody gets you real good, a good slap. A good slap.
Okay. Now I'm reading.
Yeah, that was a real one. That was a super real one. Because I mean, to even though it's nothing, but 6 hours on the cover is crazy.
Right.
6 hours on the cover, just the cover only. Just studying, just you know what I mean. Just researching while you're looking at the cover. You know what I mean? Looking up everything, the history of every word on the cover.
They be like, you know? What they ask you, Chris? What should I study? What should I study? What should I study? Yo.
Go study yourself.
Go study yourself.
Shut the hell up. What the hell do you mean, what should you study? You know what stuff is out there? What do you mean, what should you study? Go study yourself then.
Boy, sit there 6 hours and studied the cover.
Someone's talking about where do I start? Start with self.
For real. Yeah.
Islam to the Central Amexa Mars. Got some Central Amexa Mars in there.
Oh,
Islam.
Yeah, Mars.
Let me read this quick one definition.
Oh, yeah, hit it up, Mars.
Quick definition. It's another book that I found in my house here. Now, that's a whole other story, but I found the book in my house. It's been here been living in this house forever, been walking by that same bookshelf for years, and then when I came into the information, I finally went to the bookshelf, and this dictionary was there. Well, it's called the Universal Handbook. It was copyrighted in 1915 by the John C. Winston Company, right? 1915. It says the definition of Moor, a noun, one of a dark race dwelling in the Barbary states of Northern Africa. I just wanted to read that because it didn't say all that other, you know, like when we read it now, you know, like, oh, the Berbers and the Muslims, and nope, didn't say none of that. Yeah. Doesn't say any of that. Any of that.
To the point.
And in it says the definition of blackamoor real quick. It says two words, a Negro. That's what it says, blackamoor, a Negro. Okay. That's what it says.
So blackamoor means Negro, and you don't want to call yourself Negroes, then you're saying you're not blackamoors. See how they make you play yourself? But then you're going to say you're black, which is Negro. Because Negro is black, but you're not going to say you're Negro, but you're saying you're black. But then you're not going to say you're Moors, but then black means Moors. These are weird. Weird.
It's just an agenda. They gotta have an agenda.
Yeah.
The evidence is clear, man. It's clear. For Runoko Rashidi, I already say his title. For him to say that the Moors are lunatics for claiming Aboriginal here, like this ain't Morocco, like
not only that. Ooh, you heard him? He tried to mix us in with the Turtle Island. Did you hear that?
Oh, well, we want to do it. You might as well do it. We might as well do it now since we're here. Shit. Since we're here.
Man, he tried to mix us in with the.
Let me just find something.
Oh, that's treason. He just said that the Moors is a myth. That's why he just put our stuff in the myth category.
But that's the same dude who have his own excerpt in Golden Age of the Moor.
Right.
Yep. Using people to get on. And now he's in there now. He's in the house, did all the trips, did all the whatever. Now we can talk BS about the Moors. How come he wasn't talking BS when he was writing his stuff in Golden Age of the Moor?
Mm-hmm.
How come Moors weren't lunatics then? Why? Why is it that Moors weren't lunatics then? Which one was it? It was this one right here, right? You remember the timestamp?
Hold on. I think I see you.
I think it was 30-something minutes or something.
Morisco talking crazy.
Hold on 1 second. I got it too.
Yeah, I should have it close.
It's about 31 minutes, because the dude, he plays it over and over. Like, he really, the dude who plays it over and over. Yeah, he plays it over and over to, like, drive it home.
Right.
You know?
Debates aren't even worthy of discussion, but there's a large and growing group calling themselves Aboriginals to this land. So their facts, their science is not based in anything reliable. Interesting. We are turning the toilet to I'm an Aboriginal, I'm Moor, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I'm whatever. So you believe all of those belief systems are a step away from acceptance? Sought out, and I think it's very destructive to our community. And maybe we're trying to go global African unity. Right, Pan-Africanism. So when a person says, I ain't no African, right, I'm an indigenous, this is ridiculous. Wow. It's
Islam, Morris.
Islam.
You got any comments on that? The scholar putting his claim out there.
He said that they're lunatics. He said that we rather be turtles than I forgot what he called it, Pan-African or something like that. And he also said that what we are doing and saying is driving us away from African liberation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny that it's his passage of the golden.
Hold on, more. Hold on. Sorry, more. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, more.
Oh my. It's funny that that his passage, he titled it him, James E. Brunson, and Runoko Rashidi. That it's titled "The Moors in Antiquity." So what you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But just a couple of things while I read the intro. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the Moors, as early as the Middle Ages and as late as the 17th century, were commonly supposed to be black or very swarthy, and hence the word is often used for Negro. There is considerable difficulty, however, in determining the ethnicity of the early Moors through terminology alone. Indeed, there are several terms that have been used to identify the Moors. Arabic texts, for example, rarely use the word Moor and instead apply the term Berber, a word thought by some to be pejorative to an early non-Arab people of Northwest Africa. And when not employing that term, they utilize the clan names of the Berbers themselves. In early edition, early Christian sources often applied the term Saracen indiscriminately to Muslim populations in general, including the Moors. Then he goes on to start talking about, where the term derived from and all of that. But just this alone shows that what we telling you, because really once you get on this horse that you call Moorish history, you're gonna make your way over to where we at. So for you to call us lunatics, actually he is telling the truth though. Luna, dealing with the moon or the light, we actually are lunatics, but not in the connotative form that he's presenting to get a fiat note that is void from the beginning.
Or imagine he has a fez at home and that was a code call.
Oh, of course.
Imagine he has a fez at home, and the reason why he said Moors are lunatics is because he knows Moors are gonna go to the etymology, know that he's not talking about what the dumbasses who went to the lecture to hear him talk his BS or whatever are gonna really think.
Yep.
Because he's a scholar, so he should know the etymology of lunatic, just like he should know the etymology of queen. And why would he have queen as the representation of our Asiatic matriarchs on their little whatever he's signing? Why queen? Oh, because Kemet and whatever. Oh, they call themselves queens. Oh, all right, cool. Do your thing. We'll say matriarch. We'll say matriarch.
Right.
I'm playing that queen BS. We'll say empress. Islam was.
Islam. So clearly, I don't even want to add on. You can see that it's an agenda.
It's an agenda. You can see it.
Let's talk about the agenda. Like, what is it? What is it? To keep us in slavery? Like, okay, like, is that the agenda from our PhD, quote unquote, black scholar leader dudes? Is that the agenda, to keep us in slavery? That's my question. Because it looked like it. That's what it looks like. It looks like their agenda is to keep us in slavery. Like, because they know these people don't think we're Moors. They know we're Moors. They know we're Moors.
No,
They know we're.
I just want Brother Jeremy to go back and just read what he wrote about the Moors.
Right. Should I read it one more time?
Yeah.
All right. All right. The Moors in antiquity. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the Moors, as early as the Middle Ages and as late as the 17th century, were commonly supposed to be black or very swarthy, and hence the word is often used for Negro. There is considerable difficulty, however, in determining the ethnicity of the early Moors through terminology alone. Indeed, there are several terms that have been used to identify the Moor. Arabic texts, for example, rarely use the word Moor and instead apply the term Berber, a word thought by some to be pejorative, to the early non-Arab peoples of the Northwest Africa. And when not employing that term, they utilize the clan names of the Berbers themselves. In addition, early Christian sources often apply the term Saracen indiscriminately to Muslim populations in general, including Moor. That's the first before they even go, because the next one is the term Moor, and then they go into like the Moorish military, and basically.
Oh no! If you don't mind, let's hear what our scholar Runoko Rashidi has to say about the Moors. Since he's talking crazy that Moors are lunatics, let's hear what he wrote about these lunatics. So you guys are not playing around. Why do you think they're talking crazy about Moors after Dr. Ben died, after Khalid died, after all these people who put them on and let them know what's up died? Now they're going back to the civil rights BS? Talking about some African liberation? What African liberation? Africans don't call themselves African. What Pan-Africanism? There's no nation of people in the world called that. Can't make a concept a nation. But you could talk some BS and collect those fiat notes, though.
Yeah.
How much is a Runoko Rashidi lecture? How much is a lecture nowadays?
Right. That's the check right there.
Dang.
Spread that propaganda. Right? Spread that propaganda.
Go ahead, Mo. I want you to finish up.
Because even when he wrote, about the Moors and the golden age of the Moors, he never made a distinction, because we know black is not an ancient term. So there's no ancient black anything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like nobody was calling themselves or referred to themselves as black anciently at all. So like for him not to make that distinction in the beginning is crazy. Like he when you read it, he makes the distinction that, like Moors were black people, but like anciently, but Moors are Moors. We're not. There's no such thing as black. It doesn't exist. Yeah. But the way he's pushing it is like black. Like no, like they won't tie him to an ancient. Like they won't tie him to Kemet. They won't tie him to Lemuria. They won't tie him to none of that. It's just black. Like tie him.
Like, yeah, I get it. I get you. Yeah.
They don't want to tie him. They don't want to tie us to our people alone. They just don't put the Moors, and that's, they always have to this thing, black face thing. The Negroes, they still want to use, knowing that those terms were used for colonization purposes, for branding and stuff like that. We know, but they don't use that. The way he's making it seem like black means pale. Like, come on, we know that that's not us. We're not pale. But there's no disclaimer for none of that. You know what I mean? Because, again, that doesn't spell. You don't get how much the checks cost for the tours again. You know what I mean? For the little lectures, they probably charging $2,500 and up for those lectures.
And they're not even telling you nothing, because for him to call us lunatics for saying we are Aboriginal Indigenous, which is, like I say, Aboriginal being derived from the word Orient, which is meaning or pertaining to the East. That's why on your nationality card, right, you have the handshake. That's the Asiatic Brotherhood. That's why they tell you, your brother from the East and all of that stuff or whatever. So, not only that.
Sorry, Bart. Just to interject quick fast there. And that's why you see the fraud temples use the handshake and want to copyright it, because they're trying to say that's the arrangement handshake. That's not the arrangement between the Europeans and the Moors, two hands shaking. That's the uniting of Asia.
For real?
That's the uniting of Asia handshake.
See that? Oh my goodness.
That's crazy.
That's the uniting of Asia handshake.
Even I know that. What is he talking about? I ain't never. Well, I've been to temple one time, and it just one time out here, and it wasn't right. But I didn't. Everything, man.
Did they at least let you in?
Oh yeah, they let me in.
They let you in?
Yeah, but really, when I walked in, I think he was already sticking his teeth deep into the people's necks already. And so I actually walked in on to the lecture or whatever he was doing.
At least you got to walk in. We didn't even get to walk in. They stopped us at the door. Feathers up and everything. Looking at us like, what y'all want? Y'all from around here? Like, wait a minute. What's going on? This the temple, right? We got our feathers and stuff on. We can't come. We didn't get not even a thought about come in. Nothing. They came outside and closed the door behind them.
Came outside. It's more Science Temple, mind you.
It's more Science Temple.
I mean,
right next to Saint Benedict the Moor. They had a big old huge statue of Saint Benedict the Moor. They had Saint Benedict the Moor High School. They had all of this stuff, Moorish architecture and stuff, like castles and everything. Go to where it's supposed to be the headquarters of all of this. Can't even get in. Can't even, you the Moor, can't even come outside and meet you outside. They got the stained glass windows so you can't see inside. You know what I mean? Like the thick.
The duty glass windows.
Right.
They don't have muftis. They got bodyguards and shit.
Right. Right.
You got to be on the list.
Yeah. If you're not on the list, you're not getting in.
They didn't even let us in. They didn't even, this the temple. Then they say, oh, you got to go to the temple to be a Moor. Well, we went to the temple and they ain't let us in. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy.
And not even on some, we're just some Moors. Moors have even introduced me as their grand sheik to them.
Right.
Still no entrance.
stress the fact. This is my grand sheik. You stress the
Like,
fact.
that must mean something. It meant nothing. Why? Because we're not part of their club. Which is which are the people who he should be talking about? He shouldn't be just generalizing Moors. Because the Olmecs are Moors. Mansa Musa, Malians are Moors. Dogons are Moors. They wear fezzes. What you mean? You go look up Dogon and tell me if you don't find the high priest of the Dogon wearing red fezzes.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're lunatics too? Oh yeah, they probably do some moon worship. I would think that they are. Yeah. Yep, they're lunatics.
Yes, indeed.
They're definitely lunatics.
And just to smack him for that fraud, I'm gonna read White Slavery in Barbary States by Charles Sumner. Now, when I was building with y'all, I told you this was originally published in 1853. And he himself, he give you accounts of what he endured and what he experienced during these times. And on page 3, earlier in this book, he's basically giving you the extent of the Moorish Empire. But on page 3, at the bottom, he goes and says, referring to the Moorish Empire, he says, it is placed between the 29th and the 38th degrees of north latitude, occupying nearly the same parallels with the slave states of our union. It extends over nearly the same number of degrees of longitude with our slave states, which seem now at last to stretch from the Atlantic Ocean to the Rio Grande. It is supposed to embrace about 700,000 square miles, which cannot be far. Look, oh man, he really go in. It is supposed to embrace about 700,000 square miles, which cannot be far from the space comprehended by what may be called the Barbary States of America. Nor does the comparison end here. Algiers for a long time is the most obnoxious place in the Barbary States of Africa, the chief seat of Christian slavery. And now I'm going to just skip, because basically he's about to say some other stuff, but this is another slap, like I say, a slap to Runoko, is that other less important...
to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. He says, other less important points of likeness between the two territories may be observed. They are each washed to the same extent by ocean and sea, with this difference that the two regions are thus exposed on directly opposite coasts. The African Barbary being bounded in this way on the north and the west, and our American Barbary on the south and the east. But there are no two spaces on the surface of the globe of equal extent. So this is Charles Sumner telling you about that. Or even matter of fact, let me go ahead and, for the people who want to talk about how the Moorish influence of the government and all that, go down a little bit more. He says it might be worth of inquiry why Christian slavery banished at last from Europe, banished also from the part of this hemisphere which corresponds in latitude to Europe. And when you know history, you know what he's talking about right now. You know what I'm saying? And he goes on to say that hold on, I lost my pen. Banished last from Europe, latitude from corresponds in latitude from Europe, should have entrenched itself in both hemispheres between the same parallels of latitude, so that Virginia, Carolina, Mississippi, and Texas should be the American complement to Morocco, Algiers, Tripoli, and Tunis.
That's right.
So, and like I say, coming from what they call the New Orleans territory, Algiers, we call that cross the river. And Yusuf just put out the good, like, bro, like people
Grenada, Mississippi.
like people want to play all that they want, like, but this is known. Like,
you got what is it? Tangier, Virginia.
Yeah,
they just said Virginia, but Tangier is Virginia. You can Google it; it pop right up. They got a whole thing talking about it's going underneath water and everything because the water is rising over there. But imagine it, 500-700 years ago. You know what I mean? Look at it. What was the water like then in Tangier?
Like this book. This is 1853.
Right. He I remember.
Even on the scene.
Right. He's telling you the extension of your empire. Telling you, European.
And the prophet already told you that.
So-called. Cause I don't know if that was a European. Because sometimes I be like, man, that might have not been a European. Because a lot of the times I'm like 1853. We still kidnapping Christians. That's all. Like, we still kidnapping Christians. So how he writing like that? He supposed to be, you know what I mean? Like, we still kidnapping. Like how they do us. They didn't know how to learn. They didn't know how to read or write. As slaves. Like just how they do us. So how he knew how to do all of that? You know what I'm saying? That's why I be like, that might have not been a European. That could have been a Moor.
Exactly, because but that makes totally sense. But isn't that what they do though? Right? They can't. They don't have their own. They don't have their own history, so they would only graph onto what
is already there.
Had for them to even,
Straight up.
Man.
Straight up. Well, Islam to all the Moors worldwide. Islam to all the Moors. So there was obviously a good beatdown needed. Don't forget tomorrow. We got 7 p.m. Canaanland Moors Tuesday class. And if the Moors got anything to close out.
Islam to the Moors in the chat. Islam to Jeremy for shutting it down just now. He gave y'all the extension of the empire. Like, what else proof do you need? Like, that's. I remember when I read that, I was like, this is it right here. It's all over. This is it. Because wasn't he like a governor or something in Massachusetts or something like that?
Man, this dude, bro, he talking about the treaty and then everything like that.
Yeah, I gotta grab that book.
Oh yeah, put that book out one more time in case anybody missed it.
All right, this White Slavery in the Barbary States by Charles Sumner. And also, if you put Berber or Barbary in the translation, right, what they gonna tell you is Moorish, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So if they was referring to over here as the Barbary States of America, then what was they really saying?
Exactly. It's real simple once you read. But
yeah, I just want to say Islam and all the Moors in the chat. All the studious Moors, man. All the studious Moors.
Islam. Peace and love, Moors. And we shall tomorrow night when we go in. And we're obviously going to change this title and get Runoko's name in there so we can get some views on this.
Yeah, because they need to know, man.
They need to know. Peace and love to all the Moors. Islam.